guys, listen, we're back. And today we're talking about standards, we're talking about values, we're talking about how to defend the very ideas that you hold. It's a big video, really big video. If you're watching this, you can, listen, you can put it on in the car. It's kind of like a podcast type of thing, I made a similar video like this. Was it a year ago? Nah, it was just, I can't remember. Anyways, it's more of a long form thing where I'm going to walk you through the rules you set for your life, how to enforce them, and we're going to talk about a very important thing, which is the ecosystem of ideas, which is this idea that, this name for this idea that I've kind of coined, and it's why it's so important. Really key stuff we're going to go through here. So, I was on the call earlier today, right? And with my friend Jack and some other people, and this question came up about consistency, and I said, what I've been saying to you guys essentially, about setting the rules, setting clear rules for your what you consider a win or not. And it was really a good conversation actually. A really cool word I like is the word win condition. What is the winning condition, right? What signifies, okay, this was a win. So it's really cool because this guy asked a question about how to stay consistent and consistency stuff, and it's like, what am I telling you guys, right? You have to make it so simple for yourself to win. And I explained to this guy, right? Because I think it was about waking up and stuff. One of the key things when it comes to like waking up early, of course you got to set your alarm and stuff. Personally, I don't really care about waking up early. If there's nothing to do, right? Then why wake up early? You should still wake up on an alarm time. Like, okay, let's say you do like after like 10 p.m., like 10 a.m., usually you get into like that groggy phase, but people, they live different lives, they do different things. Some work at the night, some work in the morning, right? You can't expect a night shift worker to wake up at 5 a.m., right? Because they're not even off work, they're still working. So waking up early is not, that's not the win condition for you to like, okay, and now I'm doing good in life. Hey, I woke up at 5 a.m. I'm dragging a tire out of my freezer, my industrial freezer. I'm listening to 5 self-improvement podcasts on, 2 times speed, right? I'm walking barefoot in the snow, picking up my 3 children from my divorced wife. She fucking hates me. No. It's not about that at all. It's about, okay, I want to wake up at 5 a.m. What's the winning condition to say, okay, I woke up at 5 a.m. Why? I'll wake up at 5 a.m. I do 10 push-ups. And then I'm free to do whatever I want. I can go and sleep if I want. If I want to sleep, I can go back to sleep. And people are like, what the hell? Then it doesn't matter, right? You could have just, why did the push-ups matter? You could have just stayed in bed. Try it and you'll find out. That's the first of all. People, actually, let me finish this point first. Well, you set the rule there, right? So the 10 push-ups and, you're free to do whatever you want. But what usually, like, you can set whatever kind of rules you want for that. It can be 10 squats, 10 push-ups, and then whatever you want. Like, that's the winning condition. We woke up at this time. This is what signifies that. And then what most likely happens is that, hey, you'll just, be awake. You'll just, okay, I did 10 push-ups. Maybe some alarm goes off in your head. It's like, okay, shit. I kind of feel kind of awake now. You go down, you grab your coffee, and your day started. Hey, you made it. But the winning condition wasn't like to get out of bed. What does get out of bed mean? Does that mean stand up, by the way? Does that mean make your bed? This is also why I like making my bed, because it signifies, okay, bed is made, it's done, all right? That's in the past. It's a military thing too, We weren't allowed to, you're not in military, right? You're not allowed to lay with clothes on your bed. I think it's a good thing, because it's like a hygienic thing, and it's kind of disgusting, really, you're laying on your bed, especially if you're going with the gym clothes, like, what are you, some degenerate? I don't even sit down in the couch with gym clothes. I hate doing that. It's like, I got this, I've been sitting on, sweaty benches and stuff. I've been sweating in this clothes. I don't want to sit down. I don't want to lay on my bed in it. But like I was saying, people are so, they're very quick to think like, oh, well, you wake up at 5, you do 10 push-ups. What's the point, right? What's the point? It's like, it's not that difficult to try these ideas out for yourself. You can just go out there and do it. Try it. Try tomorrow. That's your winning condition. You now woken up at 5 a.m. You woke up at 5 a.m. You saw the alarm. You did 10 push-ups and you went back to sleep. Good. Now you woke up at 5 a.m. And then you decided to take a nap. That was the nap after, right? But most likely what's going to happen is you're just going to stay up. And if you don't do that, you try it again. Hey, and the next day you're probably going to be, you're probably going to be in a better state in order to stay up, right? Maybe because we'll be so tired or whatever. But, we're going to go into this, in this video, and it's less about the thing, right? But it's more about setting the winning conditions and losing conditions. And we talk about that. I've talked about this a lot, and I talked about this in the last time I made an episode like this. Standards. It's either you're in or you're out. Whenever it comes to discipline, it's always binary. It's either you're disciplined or you're not. And this is the way you have to think of everything. For the rules you set for yourself is always binary. It's always, did I do the thing? Is the thing achieved or it's not? Whatever else, aside from the winning conditions about this constitutes I did it, that doesn't matter. That's like it's fugazi. People will, oh yeah, I almost, it was close, it was, no. It's not done. It's not done. Right? This is done. I woke up and I did my push-ups, right? That is done. I woke up and I did 9 push-ups instead of 10. It's not done. It's not done. It doesn't matter. It's non-existent. You need to remove that from your head. This thing like trying and almost and all this stuff, that you need to remove that from your brain when it comes to this. Remove that from your brain. Okay? Big disclaimer there, because I just, talked about this, but everything I go through in all my videos really, if you're a complete retard and you don't understand nuance and that there's different situations in life where you think differently, okay, you're retarded. You're completely retarded. So when I say, your winning condition is to wake up and do 5 push-ups, 10 push-ups, right? And if you're at 9, that doesn't count. It's not that you go around thinking that for everything in life, right? Like a robot. Or maybe you do. Maybe you just, you have, retardation. And I think a lot of people do. They don't realize that they're pretty retarded. So everything I say is with nuance, right? But like with this, it's a winning condition. We draw the line. Okay, the line is here. The line is here. 10 push-ups, 9 push-ups. No, we don't stop at 9. Unless you break your shoulder, you don't stop at 9. Can you do them at your knees then? Okay, good. That's a winning condition. Okay, I did 9 proper ones, and then I did 1 with a broken shoulders on my knees, and then I went back to bed. Boom. Probably won't get back to bed though, because I'll probably be in the ER. But that's kind of how that works. And you see, all this stems from kind of the intent that we have in our head. That's where the standard is drawn. And kind of like what we envision for our lives, really. It's like you can really, you have to make rules for yourself in life, for anything. And you have to outline this stuff, because if not, you're going to be, victim to your own, victim to your own demise. Does that make sense? Because you have no standards, and so anything that comes, you can just choose in the moment. I was going to say this earlier on the call today. If any of you guys are watching who was on the call, what was this? Yeah, the key thing here is that you don't decide on standards and stuff in the moment. That's the big issue here. Because a lot of people say, yeah, I don't do this, I don't do that, and then once, they're put under pressure, they just fold, right? You can't be that. You can fold like a lawn chair. That's what women do, by the way. Women suck at this, right? Oh, I don't sleep with guys on the first date. Yeah, right? Yeah, that didn't last long, that's standard. Don't be like that. That's women shit, okay? They are so opportunistic and all this stuff. I'll get back to that point in a second, because, we're going to use them as an example to become superior beings here, really. People without these standards and people who don't set rules for their life, I will not engage with this, I will not do this, I will not do that. These people, right, they're so lost, right? They have no moral compass, either they're some black rapper or something, because I feel like these are the, prime degenerates, and they talk about all these, disgusting lyrics in their texts and stuff. These guys will fold like nothing, all right? And you learn, once you set these standards, these rules for yourself, you learn to see who's going to fold or not. And you learn a lot about yourself too. Like, will this pressure, once I put under this pressure, will I fold? And there will be times, right, where it's gonna be, hey, I really don't do this. And it might be for a small thing. I don't eat soy, right? That's something I do. I don't eat soy. But like, that's not a rule that I enforce to the point where I'm gonna storm out of the family reunion dinner over soy. That's not where that line, that's not how I enforce the line, right? But I can, choose for my own sake, in my daily life, in my diet, I can be like, okay, I want to avoid soy products. And so I say, then the rule can be, the red line we make for that is, oh, am I seeing soy in the ingredient lists? That's the line. If I see that, I don't buy it, I don't eat it. For example, this is how a line is drawn. And so that's just one example for your health, for example. Another thing is, if you're eating gluten or not, right? I don't know. This, like anything. And so when you guys going out there, you have to think, okay, what would I not do and what would I do? What would I not do if X, Y, and Z happens? And then you look, and you have to find for yourself something that is so tangible that it's like either or. There's not sometimes something, maybe all this bullshit, right? If some buts and candies and nuts, right? All this bullshit, like that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist if you want to stay consistent, if you want to have standards for yourself and really, be someone who's worth respect, because it just ties into that, right? How can you respect someone who doesn't respect their own standards or their own rules, their own, that they set for themselves in life? So, I'll give you a great example, actually, right? My friend Jack, this guy's, so great what he's doing, right? He's turning sober. I have another friend too, right? Which I mentioned in the previous video I made, back in 2024, I believe, or early 2025, about my friend Dario, who, and they both, made this interesting observation in themselves. Something I've known for years, obviously. But it's like, it's the fact that when you're like, okay, I'll have a beer, okay, I'll have a drink, things tend to slide out. And so, they've come to the conclusion, right, which is the correct conclusion, is that when you're like halfway in and halfway out, usually you just slip all the way out, right? Everything just goes to shit. And, alcohol is the worst, right? Which is why I tell you guys to like stay sober, and why I commend anyone who does that, because it's like, what is the easiest line to draw, right? Is it I drink one beer, or is it I drink zero? Never, I'm not touching it if it has no alcohol. Probably the one that says I'm not touching it if it has alcohol. Now, I haven't been under the influence that much. I've been under the influence like 3 times in my life. I'm 28, right? So I'm not that familiar with it. But, if you're saying, hey, I'm just gonna have 2 beers, how easy is it for 2 beers to become 3? Now you cross the line. And when you cross the line and you're 3 beers, 3 beers deep, how easy is it to take the 4th? And suddenly you wake up and you're hungover and it's like, okay, what happened? Well, you know what happened? You set the line at the wrong place. That's what happened. So, and this whole sober thing is just so, people who just decide to go sober, such a good thing. I want everyone to go sober. We need to eradicate alcohol. It's an outdated thing. Alcohol is such a poison to society. All the bad things that you see, they happen because of alcohol and immigrants, okay? That's what happens. That's just the truth. So, we need to eradicate alcohol. Anyone who's in this, this whole hookup, everyone, this is funny, everyone tries to talk shit about hookup culture and stuff. You know what's, very closely linked with that? Alcohol and clubs. No one talks about that, huh? How about you get your fat ass out of the club and stop talking shit about hookup culture, right? You're probably some wristless fat bitch anyways. You can't get any, right? Or you're some soy boy pussy with a skinny neck. Skinny necks are out, by the way. You gotta build that neck. See that? No neck Nico I'm turning into. You gotta build that neck, right? You gotta build that wrist, and then you just gotta say no to everyone, right? If you want to, or not. Up to you. But definitely no alcohol. No alcohol! Okay, we're cutting alcohol in 2026. No alcohol. No one's drinking anything. All the companies, they're going bankrupt. Except in Russia. If you're coming out of the like an ice bath in Russia, even I would take a sip of vodka, I think. See, I changed the line now, okay? The line goes like this. Unless you're going out of an ice bath and it's minus 50 degrees and you're in Siberia, you're not touching the vodka. That's the line, you see? And that's the rule. And the key things for these rules, right? Before we digress, is the fact that it needs to be set in advance. You cannot set rules for your own life in the moment. Of course you can be like, hey, I just don't want to engage with this. You can trust your gut feeling and be like, no, this doesn't feel good. I'm out, right? Of course you can. But you can't start moving lines when it comes, when you start getting pressure on yourself. You can't do that. Then the line doesn't matter at all. What's the point of a line if it's like every time something happens, you just go, oh yeah, but this, but that, but this, but that. No, we're not doing the maybes anymore. It's like, no, I'm not drinking. No. It's like, oh, you want to drink? No, I'm not drinking. No, there's no alcohol. No alcohol. That's the line. So it's not like you come to the point of someone, yeah, just have a drink, right? And you just go one beer. No. Now you're moving the line. You can't move the line. If you set the line, we're gonna train every day, and I just use train every day as a figure of speech, because the red line is really we're gonna show up to the gym every day, and I talked about this on the call with the guys too, and it's something that people really don't understand, but like I said, people usually are dumb and try to be like, oh, right, but don't listen to these idiots anyways. You'll find these people in the comment section usually, right? They'll be the haters, right? They'll be the pussy losers. But I talked about this, and it's the fact that if I just go to the gym, if I take the time to drive to the gym or go or whatever means necessary to get to the gym door, and I walk inside the door, if my whole body crosses the line from the door, that's the win. I can go back home. I don't need to do anything, right? That's the line. So okay, so did we do a workout? So my line, right, is I have to show up to the gym and I have to do 2 sets. That's usually my line. That's my line for, okay, this constitutes a workout. What constitutes a workout? Have you even thought about that? What constitutes a workout for you? Because if it's 15 kilometers, ride or die, you have to do that. How consistent are you going to be with it? Most likely you're not going to be that consistent, depending on your level, of course. But so the line really needs to be so dumb that it's almost impossible to fail at it. Really, really, really important, right? I'm looking at a banana right now, and it's yellow. A bad line would be, hey, this, I don't eat green bananas. Right? Because usually, you have a bit of a mix. Sometimes they're green, yellowish, right? That's usually a bad line to draw. Now, if you can find examples of that where it's blurry, that's a bad line. That's a bad line to draw. Very bad line. It needs to be so cut and clear. As soon as my body is inside the gym, I've won. Boom, winning conditions. Winning conditions. Think of this word. What's the winning conditions? What constitutes the win? What constitutes not being a win? And if it's not a win, it's not necessarily a loss, right? We got it. You want to be in that state of mind where it's yes, we're on this right path. Trust me, when you start thinking like this, you'll be on the right path. True. It truly, because you don't see this as a loss. Okay, it's not a loss, right? One day, one time, it's a mistake, right? Two times is a habit. Don't do it 2 times, but. Sure, you missed today, right? You're going to fix that tomorrow. But we still want to be in that mindset of, hey, we're moving forward. We're on the plan. We don't want to dig ourselves deep, down into a trench of despair, right? Because we crossed the line. Unless you committed, genocide or something, right? Then you probably, should be a bit sad. Or else, right? That says, something about you, I would say. But for most of us, that doesn't apply, right? Only to Bibi Netanyahu. Oh boy. See, my mind works at this different level. I can just go anywhere with these topics. Truly, it's like operating at a different level, right? That's what 50 million grams of creatine will do to you. But no, that's truly important. You know, think about the winning conditions. Think about, okay, what constitutes a win, what constitutes not being a win, and you can do this in a moment too. There's a good exercise for this. Okay, I have multiple of these mindset exercises that kind of outlined and developed over the years, and one of them is very interesting actually. Because I do this all the time. You can do this on a treadmill, a Stairmaster, whatever it is. I do this all the time on these things. So let's say I'm doing a Stairmaster, right? I'm doing a Stairmaster session. Usually when I do the Stairmaster, I like to put like a bag. You can do this. You can put like a medicine ball, a medicine bag. They have like these weighted bags in my gym. It looks like a duffel bag. It has a weight to it. And I put that on my shoulders and I start walking on the Stairmaster with it. And people are probably looking at me. It's like, what the fuck, right? Who's this freak? Walking around with bag on his back, right? And I'm looking at the time, and maybe it's like 10 minutes left. You have this time. You're looking at the time, and it's like, okay, I have this much left. I have this much left. You can do this in real time. Take a certain amount of time, right? Time is very tangible. It's like I have 10 minutes and I have 10 seconds, right? For that, you have time in front of you. You can see it. Right? You don't work out for exactly that time. So it's real. It's not in here. It's not some mysticism. And you don't drink water. You decide there's something you can't do for that time until that time runs out. Now you have a goal, right? That's the line. You can't cross that line. That's how it needs to work. So for example, I do this all the time just because, I like torturing myself, really. Masochistic to a certain level. Well, especially for the gym stuff. People ask me all the time, are you a sadist? And they don't know the difference, right, between a masochist and a sadist. No, of course I'm not. It's jokes. It's jokes, okay? But I go without, it's like, okay, I have 10 minutes left, we're going to do that, and we're not going to take a sip of water. And it's like, oh, well, what's 10 minutes going to do without water for you? It's going to build your mind, right? That's what it does. This is a building block. Think of it as a rep. Okay, what's one rep of bicep curls gonna do for you? Have you ever, if you're asking me that question, have you even done a rep of biceps? You need one rep, and then you need one more, and then you need one more. This is how repetitions work. There's these funny memes about this too, right? Just because the first rep feels blah, 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 doesn't mean the last rep doesn't mean the first rep wasn't invaluable. Something like this. But this is a really good exercise, right? So try and do that. Time, especially all these time specific exercises where it's like, I can't do this for X amount of time. Great stuff for building the mind. And you can do anything really. It can, a good one is like, okay, I'm gonna do this rest of this exercise without looking at my phone, right? And what's not looking at the phone? What does that mean? That means not picking it up out of the bag. For example, that's the win condition. And outline this clearly. For drinking water is very simple. It's like, okay, water can't, I can't put water in my mouth. That's very simple. When you're outlining these things, just like you're doing for rules for life, you outline what does looking at the phone mean. Looking at the phone, it might mean in your case, okay, I can pick up the phone. It's not lighting up or anything. And that's good. Maybe that's your win condition. But is it easy to click that button, right? Now we're going back to the point of, okay, how do we draw the lines that are easiest to enforce? And most likely the best line to draw for that, if you want to do that as as an example, is to just put the phone away. Put it in the bag and just forget about it. I'm not going to look at my phone until this timer says this. Okay, good. That's a good winning condition. A really good winning condition, and it's very tangible. It stays there. I can't see it until this happens. That's a good winning condition. This is how you need to think for anything. When anything you want to stay consistent with, you have to think about it this way. The winning condition, making the winning condition as bulletproof as possible. Bulletproof as possible. Okay? So that's really, the big thing with standards. It has to be binary. It has to be yes or no. It cannot be some middle ground thing where it's like maybe, 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 maybe. It has to be yes, and why has this work been done? Why is it confirmed that now it is done? And then anything else is not done. Anything else is like, okay, it wasn't done, and then you have to figure out why wasn't it done? Okay, something happened. And a big thing with this is that to know your excuses. Know your excuses. Because sometimes this will pop up. Like, I'll tell you this and you'll go out there and you'll make the rules for your life and you'll actually, prosper and, go out there and really, once you start doing this too, it's like, poof, poof, everything seems easy. Everything will be easy. Because it's very tangible. But you got to know your excuses. It's like, okay, I can't go to the gym today because it's fucking snowing, for example, right? Because it's snowing so much, I can't get to the gym. And it's like, is that a valid excuse for this thing to not be done? For not getting my body inside the gym, right? For not stepping into the gym itself? Is that a valid excuse? And then, so it's not like all excuses are bad. You have to look at the excuse, and this is where it's difficult, right? Because you have to be objective. You have to talk to yourself like you're someone you care for. I speak to myself like a toddler sometimes. You have to speak to yourself. Okay, it's okay. You do this, drink the water, don't drink the water, don't do this, right? And so, yeah, that would seem like a valid excuse. It's not every day, right? It's not every day that there's a fucking snowstorm, for example, and you can't get to the gym. But today, something happened. I can't get into the gym. I can't step inside the gym. So, then, maybe we'll find something else. Maybe we can set a different wind condition. Maybe the wind condition can be, hey, let's just do something to get some heart rate up, right? Let's do 10 push-ups. Let's do 10 squats, 10 push-ups, 10 burpees. And we do that 10 times. And we do 30 seconds rest after we do all these. We do 30 seconds rest in between, and we're good for the day. Okay? At least we did something, and tomorrow we're going to go back and we're going to be even stronger. Hopefully this snowstorm has gotten away, but tomorrow we're going to be even stronger. But today we did something. This is the mindset. This is the way you have to think about it. It's like, I couldn't get this done, but we can get this done at least. And that's great. We're doing phenomenal work. We're moving forward here. It's not optimal. I know it's not optimal. So we don't want to drag ourselves down. I know it's not optimal, but we did something, and today is going to be even better. Tomorrow's going to be even better. Tomorrow I'm going to, do that. And maybe, I'll start thinking, right? Tomorrow, maybe I can't get it done. What if that happens tomorrow? Now we start thinking in advance. Hey, what if this happens tomorrow? What if, the gym is closed? What happens then? What is my, alternative? It's like, hey, I know this great idea. I can pull up this workout on the TV and I can be like, oh, let's do this bodyweight workout. I saw this guy. He had this workout. We can do this. We can do that. And you start thinking. And now you start to enforce the lines that you have actually set for yourself. Without going into these bullshit excuses, because you know your excuses. And if you're always hitting the same excuse for something, especially this is very typical with work, now you're coping. If the excuse is always the same, you're coping. It's not every day it's just a snowstorm outside. Unless you live in Siberia, and even they probably swallow than you. They probably get more shit done than you. Who knows? In between their cigarette breaks and, eating raw fish and potatoes. Fucking hard-ass people. I want to go to Siberia. I really want to go to Siberia. But if the excuse is always the same, now you have an issue. Now you have a big issue. Because it's not an excuse, it's just cope. You're just coping. It's an excuse in a bad way, right? Because we have a good, excuse in a good way. It's like, okay, I didn't get this done because, I don't know. I got arrested for DUI, right? Okay, I can't hit the gym today. Hey, oops, sorry, right? Hey, I'll make sure I don't get arrested for DUI, right? So I can go to the gym. That's my goal in life, is like to not get arrested. To not end up in prison so I can keep working out. Actually, it might be better, actually, Norwegian jails have, probably have great gyms. So maybe that's just the plan at this point. Become a convict and just spend life in prison. Just, train. You can do whatever you want, right? Train. Perfect. All you guys who are lost in life, you should know. Oh, boy. No, that's funny. Don't do that. But I talked a little bit about standards. I kind of outlined this. And of course, you can always go back and check out the previous kind of video episode I did on this and why it's so important, what it does, but you understand the concept now. I want to talk about the ecosystem of ideas. And you know, in this day and age, right, everyone is like, oh, well, I wouldn't allow this. Oh, well, I wouldn't allow that. And this applies both to individuals and especially as groups at different levels. You have yourself, which is, I would say, is a group, right? When I think about myself, I think of we, right? Not like a pronoun or anything, like a retard. But it's like, yeah, we did this, right? It's like I'm talking to me. Like, is this person inside here? It's like a schizophrenic, but promise you I'm not. And then you have groups at different levels, like you and someone else. And then it's like you and a bigger group. And then it's like a nation at the biggest, right? Then it's the world population, which you can't really do much with, right? But you can enforce these things in between your own group. And you see, the thing is that people say all the time, I would do this. I wouldn't allow that. I wouldn't allow that. But what they fail to realize is that we live in a new age. We live in an age where we don't go after each other with pitchforks anymore. And we live in an ecosystem, a war of ideas. A war of ideas, rather. And this ecosystem of ideas is exactly what's going to protect you. When, in this day and age, you know, you don't get the pitchforks coming against you. You do something that a group doesn't like, it's very rare that you see them showing up at your door. Unless you're living in some third world country where they allow that stuff. Or unless you're posting, you know, Facebook posts in some countries, because then the police will show up at your doors. But it all ties back to this idea, this war of ideas that we're really living in. When you're in a group, right? I'll make this example. You remember your childhood group of friends? And you ever think like, well, what happened actually? Nothing slides out just like suddenly. And that's good, I forgot to say that too when it comes to like setting the rules for yourself in life. It's not accidental that suddenly you find yourself, I haven't trained for a month. That's not accidental. The reason you set the rules for yourself in life is to know that, hey, we've crossed the line. And when you cross that line too many times, you're going to end up suddenly be like, okay, I haven't trained for a month. That's the reason. So when you set that line right and you cross it once, an alarm goes off in your head. It's like, hey, we're on a slippery slope. That's why the line needs to be clear, and it needs to be a really good rule that will not fold under pressure easily. That is not vague. That is like yes or no. Very important. Because the rule says either we're progressing through simple winning conditions that aligns with our goals, or it's like, hey, we're actually falling off. And if we don't, get the winning conditions enough times, we need to do this, okay? This is very important. You need to reconsider the winning condition. The idea itself, the rule itself isn't necessarily bad. But you need to reconsider the winning condition. If you can't get it done anytime, then you need to reconsider the winning condition. Because you identify that this action that you're doing, it aligns with the goal you want to end up at eventually. Don't, fuck the goal. Don't think about the goal. You think about this. This is the most important thing you do. To think about this action that you're doing right now. The winning conditions. It's either or. It's binary. That's the most important thing you think about. You don't think about the goal, but this needs to be aligned with that. And if you can't hit this goal, like ever, if you can't wake up and you can't do the 10 push-ups, if it's always 9, you need to set the winning conditions differently up. It needs to be, hey, I'm going to wake up 30 minutes later and I'm going to do 5. That's the way you got to adjust it. You have to adjust the winning conditions. Because if you're walking around and it's always going to be a loss, if you can't cross the line, it will be like, yes, I did the work. Yes, I did the win. Then you're just going to end up in the whoosh, everything is chaos. You never see a win. Everything is like just up in the air. So that's why the winning condition is so important, because you know when you're sliding out. And like I said, we should go back to this ecosystem of ideas, right? You're looking at this group of friends perhaps, and you're always wondering, well, what happened, right? Why did we start doing this? Well, when did we start accepting this? When did we start thinking like this? When did we start talking like this? And it's always like these things that try to like, I don't know how to say this, but anything that changes your mind, right? It starts with one little seed, one idea that was planted in you from somewhere that had a compounding factor, whether big or small, that now is here. It's come full circle, and this is the result. So a group of friends, right? Sure. And it's like, yeah, you can kind of understand this from like, okay, well, people have different values and stuff, and they kind of drift away. Well, why is that, right? Because things are, are allowed in that people don't, agree with. So I have a group of friends, for example, hey, and then suddenly one day no one has time for each other. No one, agrees on what to do, right? Maybe I had because when I was younger, my friends, right, they were always drinking, Everyone in Norway drinks. Everyone's a fucking idiot. Everyone's a fucking idiot. Everyone goes around and drinks, and if you don't drink, you're the weird one. Why am I the weird one? Right? You're the one drinking poison, you fucking idiot. Right? So don't come at me with that shit, right? Oh, everyone always asks me this, why do you not drink? And I don't want to make this all about alcohol, but why do you not drink, they ask. It's like, why do you drink? You fucking idiot, right? Oh, well, usually I don't, say that. Usually I just say, why would I? And they're like, fair. And then they take another sip. That's usually how that goes. But, you look at, people drift away, and it's like these ideas that, come into your life, and it's like, okay, why did this happen? Well, it stems from something. So, for example, you drift away and stuff, and like I was saying, I'm young, I had friends, and they were like drinking and stuff, and there's ideas that we don't agree with, and if you want to protect yourself first and foremost, if you want to protect the group, you have to be bulletproof in what ideas you allow to come in. Now, that's the war of ideas, really, because this is how people attack you. This is how people attack another group. Let's say you picture a tribe, right? Back in the mud huts, right? They probably still have them down in Africa. And, they're coming at them with the swords and stuff. And it's like, we don't do that anymore. But you picture the same tribes. And it's like, how can we take down this group? How can we take down this group of individuals? Well, what we can do is we can go over there and we can, you can tell them something. What should we tell them? Right? Think with me. Think with me when I'm saying this to you right now. You listening, you watching this. What would you say to a different group, right? In order to get them to start going against each other, to split that group up, what would you do? And, there's a multitude of answers to these questions, right? And there's people who actually sit there and think of this, right? How can we, take down a group of individuals, whether that is a small group of people, a nation, for example, right? You probably already know this. Maybe you even know who, right? And maybe you have a suspicion of who. Maybe then there's multiple. It's not just necessarily one group. It can be multiple groups who do this. And you and me right now doing this thought experiment, it's like, okay, what would we do in order to infiltrate someone, in order to take down someone when we can't use force? What would you do, right? And so you would plant ideas. You would plant something in that ecosystem of ideas. You would infiltrate the ecosystem of ideas, and you would plant an idea. This is like Inception, right? Right? I'm the Leonardo DiCaprio. I look like him, nice and handsome. So I'm planting the idea. I'm planting the seed of the idea. And what happens eventually is that this tribe splits up. The tribe that we, targeted with this thing, maybe we threw, let's say we threw a rotten fruit into their camp. We planted it. We snuck in, we planted this rotten fruit. And now they start arguing about the rotten fruit. Boom. Right? And they're starting splitting up. Now they're an easy target. Now we take over their camp. That's how it's done. And we didn't even have to bring out the swords and the clubs and stuff. This is modern day warfare. And it happens every single day. It doesn't necessarily happen in the way you picture it, right? Because there's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be like a global agenda with lizard men and, new world government. That's not what it's about. It's about this, you face this on a daily basis. Because whatever you consume, whatever people are telling you, especially women, you got to be watch out for this. I'm going to get back to this point. That's all real. So I surround myself, right, with winning ideas. When I'm with people, right, I don't want to be around losers. I don't want to be around pussies. You know, what was this? Oh yeah. You know, when I talk to some people, right? Maybe you do the same sometimes. Maybe you're even talking to me. If you're a pussy and you talk to me, you probably think I'm an asshole. And I'm thinking, I'm thinking about that about you too. Because I've talked to people sometimes and it's like they're super low energy. You know, maybe, you know, they don't really have anything going for themselves, right? Not that it's you know, a sin to be lost and not have your plan laid out for you, but it's the way, right? Some people are just so ambitionless and they try to suck and drain the energy out of you. And it's like, what the fuck? And you're like, okay, well, fuck you, right? That's what you're thinking. And that's the way I think too. When I meet these people, I'm like, what the fuck, right? What the fuck is this? We have to stop being afraid to offend people with this stuff. It's like, shut the fuck up, right? That's what I want to say sometimes. And I'm starting to get better at it, actually. You know, this other day, I almost told this bitch in the store to shut the hell up, okay? Because I was signing off on some package. It's like, I was just asking, oh, does it need to be my signature? Kind of like jokingly. And she was like, yeah, because, you know, if not, then you would, you know, be breaking the law. And I'm like, I didn't ask for a sermon on law, all right? What are you playing in Suits or something? Were you Harvey Specter? This stuff, it pisses me off. Some of these things. And sometimes I'm in this continuous state of just, you know, hatred and being pissed off. And it's a really good state to be in sometimes, actually. It's like, done, we need to get things done. It's like, you know, you got girls messaging you. It's like, no, shut the hell up, okay? Just get away from me for a second. And then it's very interesting. People will say that, you know, oh, you shouldn't live with hatred, you shouldn't live with anger in you. And it's like, yeah, well, no, we're not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. I might go there later. But it's like, it actually helps with some things. Because it's like, we need to stop being afraid of offending people. Like, when we see these ideas being, you know, when we spot these ideas being planted into, you know, the ecosystem that we want to surround ourselves with, this absolute bubble of just winning, we need to call it out. We need to call it out. I'll give you a great example, okay? And this is something that, you know, it's a really good example, really. So, for example, for me, right? Whatever you think of me, I don't sleep with women if they have girlfriends or wives. I'm not a home wrecker, right? I consider myself a good guy. So I don't do that. And maybe someone looks at me and is like, yeah, why would you do, what matters? Why did that matter, right? It doesn't matter. That's my rule. I don't do that. And it's a rule that I enforce, right? So people like, and I take steps in order to defend that idea. And it's not, and the reason why I'm using this example is that everything you hear around you, everything you might be, you know, told to do and maybe you're influenced to do, it goes against your idea perhaps. In my case, for this example, there's rap lyrics. There's degeneracy on Instagram, on this and this and this social platform. And I have to defend this, right, this steel trap, this brilliant genius mind of mine against all this. That's my job. I have to preserve this ecosystem of ideas that I've created for myself, where I don't allow this, and this, and this. Whatever it might be. But that's a good example. And it's like, if I'm talking to people and they want to share and they're trying to talk about stories like associated with this topic, I tune out. I just leave. I just walk away. I don't want to hear it, right? Whatever story you're telling me, please shut the fuck up. Because I'm not interested. I don't want to hear it. So I'm relentless in trying to defend these ideas that I hold. Relentless. You have to, like, this is the way you like lose in this. If you're allowing this stuff to come out of the rap lyrics you listen to, if you're listening to degenerate music, no wonder, you know, these young, you know, girls are so fucked up, right? When all they're seeing is like, what is her name? Sabrina Carpenter, right? When she's like twerking on stage. See? That's an idea. It's not just the fact that she's doing that. That's an idea, and it's planted in their heads now. Now you have a generation of complete hoes. Good luck, society. Good luck. It's not the pitchforks again. She doesn't come out with a pitchfork and sell, oh, you should go and make an OnlyFans. She doesn't do that. It's not by force. She just goes on there, she twerks, and it's like, okay, everyone has an OnlyFans now. That's how it works. And it's the same for us guys, right? And so, we're not as gullible as some of these idiots, idiot women are. But I'll tell you what, a lot of these issues, they don't stem from, a lot of people that point fingers, right? Oh, this is the issue, this is the issue. A lot of these people who are pointing at these big conspiracy theories, they're usually the issue themselves, right? These, everyone's like to say conspiracies, especially these days. You know what the big issue is? It's just so many weak men. Like, you can set the blame at some people and, these people should be better, this should be better. But you know what we need to do? We need to call this shit out. It's like, listen, when we're in this group, we're not going to listen to this type of music. We're not going to talk about this topic. So if this topic is brought up, it's like, okay, something is off here. And we know that something is off. This is so key. Because if you're allowing this in the first place, like you're now broken the red line. Like this is the line, like I talked about. We set the line not just for ourselves, but for the whole ecosystem, for all the ideas that, okay, this is allowed, this is not allowed. And it needs to be clear. If this lyrics contains this, I will not listen to the lyrics. I am a good example here. If the lyrics contains the word, which I don't want to say, weak, right? And it talks about weakness, I don't listen to the song. I stop listening to the song. If I'm in a room where the song is, I leave the room. I'm relentless like this. And some people look at me and say, I'm this psycho, right? You know what's psycho? What's out there? Look out there. Look at me, the absolute genius I am, and look out there. Which one do you prefer, right? You probably won't prefer me, because if you're thinking I'm an idiot, then hey, you're probably a degenerate anyway, so you probably prefer that. But like, this is how it needs to be these days. You're like the whole group around you, especially if you're like a leader, especially if you're a leader of like a business, an industry, whatever it might be, you need to enforce the ideas that your group holds. I learned this when I was doing my special forces training, right? And probably one of the biggest reasons for why I was taken out of the training in the first place, because I didn't fit in with the ideas. When you're there, when you're in the military, right? They have a like for the whole military, not for the special forces especially, but then they're like these ecosystems are like some bigger, some are smaller, some surround the whole thing, right? You have values and all this stuff, but especially for these types of institutions, there's okay, we allow this type of thinking. Okay, we allow this type of thinking, and thinking for yourself in the military is not very. And having different opinions about stuff is not very encouraged, right? Not that it's struck down on immediately, but let's look at, COVID again, right? You start to think outside the box and be like, maybe there's something about this, right? Hey, you shouldn't be talking about it. Hey, you're talking about this to other people. Hey, you can't do that, right? You're thinking differently. Hey, you can't do that. You can't be like... All this stuff is just about an ecosystem of ideas. They're not going to come out with you with the pitchforks, and if they do, it's already too late. You're past the point. But this is like the first level of defense you have to have. You have to have this first level of defense where it's like you defend the idea. You defend the idea because that idea will be they will try to infiltrate that idea. And people, so you're not going to fit in with all the groups, right? Because maybe they're, complete degenerates. Maybe they're believe different things. Maybe they have different ideas, right? And you don't always fit in with them, and that's fine. But you need to make up your mind about what you allow and don't allow. Very important. Because if you don't do that, you're completely lost. And then we go full circle, right? We're going back to the point of this is this is what I believe. This is like the line I'm drawing, right? And so you enter into a group, and it's like this. You're starting to pass the line now, and it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be here. Hey, that's fine. I'm leaving because this group clearly they talk about things, they listen to this, they do this stuff that doesn't align, and sometimes they will take action to remove you, right? Because in their eyes, you're the enemy. And that's how it should be, because it's a faction war. That's what it is. It's like you have this tribe here. We're going to the tribe example. Like, do you have this tribe here? You have this tribe here. And this tribe is full of degenerates, right? What if I come in there and I start talking about training, improving life, being better? You know what they're going to do? They're going to be like, what the fuck is this, right? But that's my goal, right? Because I'm here on the good side of history. And so I'm planting this seed into your mind of like, hey, if you do this, if you just, go to the gym once, you might be better off. And it starts to grow with you, right? And I'm brainwashing you slowly into becoming a better person, right? That's what I'm doing. So I'm on this side, right? And of course, I'm doing that very overtly because my messaging is very overt. I'm telling you this. But people will come at you with the most subtle things. It's like, ooh, why are you doing that? Ooh, maybe you should just, calm it down a bit. All this bullshit, calm it down, hold on to this, all do that. Yeah, fuck that. Don't do that. Don't listen to this. That is the pinnacle. This is like the weapon they use. If you're going back to the pitchforks and stuff, this is the pitchfork they're giving you. Maybe you should tone it down a bit. How about fuck you, right? How about I don't tone it down and you just leave? Because here we talk like this and we believe in this. And sure, maybe because over time, right, you might go through an evolution of like, okay, maybe we were wrong in the past. Like, you're not stuck up on this idea forever. You have to be, like I talked about nuance in the beginning. You have to be able to like think outside of yourself. Like, hey, am I actually believing what would, serve the purpose of myself, the people around me, for winning, for attaining this goal, right? We're always goal focused, or am I not? You always have to think this way, and that requires you to not be stuck up on the ideas for too much, but there's a fine balance between who is influencing you and why, and actually doing some introspection, if that's the right word, and being like, hey, maybe I'm thinking the wrong way about this. Maybe I should think about this. And then you discuss, right, within your ecosystem of just pure winning, you discuss, have we thought about this the wrong way? And you know what's gonna happen? If you ask that question to a bunch of weed smoking hippies, they will come back at you and be like, I don't know, bro, I don't know. Right? If you're getting that answer, you're probably in the wrong group already. If you're trying to at least achieve something, because that's another ecosystem, right? Another faction. Here you have the military, right? Here you have me and my winners. We have the big camp. We have the big nice camp. We have a big bonfire, right? We're winning. Everything is winning, right? And then you have this group of weed smoking hippies, right? And they're over there, they're completely clueless. And, if they're coming over and start talking about, the benefits of smoking weed and stuff, for example, we're going to be like, get the hell out of here, right? Get the hell out of there with that shit. And if that has now been planted as a seed in, someone in our ecosystem, we need to remove that. Right? Either by, disassociating with the person or whatever means necessary, because once an idea starts to fester, it's like a cancer, right? It will turn into whatever it wants it to be. It will be like, hey, why can't we just do this? Why can't we just do that? And this is really the pinnacle of the issue, because it starts so small. Like I said, maybe you should just tone it down a bit. Maybe you should just, not do that, right? So you start with this, and how the idea is basically attacked is that, hey, how much can we move the line before they start to actually take physical action, right? Because if you completely cross the line, then you're going to be met with a fist. And no one does that, right? Because we live in a different society. So what people do, right? You start to move the line by this much. By this much, you move the line so tiny that you can't even notice it. And then you sit there and you're thinking like 1 + 1 is 2. Everyone thinks that. And then some other faction, some group, someone comes and plants the seed in your mind that says, hey, 1 + 1 is actually 2.1, right? Why can't it be that? Come on, give us a break now. Let's just say that it's 0.1. Come on. And then you have either yourself being the group, like just the individual, or you have a bigger group of people who like suddenly be like, hey man, let's just, it's what it is, right? Let's just accept that, right? It's 0.1. Okay, well, fine. You know what's gonna happen? Because you can't concede any points on this. It's gonna turn into 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. Suddenly, 1 + 1 will be 3 before you even know it. And then you're gonna be left here and gonna be like, what happened? How did 1 + 1 turn into 3? Well, you know how it turned into 3? Because it crossed the line. It didn't turn into 2 anymore. It turned into 2.1. And that's how everything is. Everything goes like this. Anything, immigration, whatever it might be, your diet, whatever, you started eating this. and it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna have a little bit of chocolate. Suddenly, a year down the line, you're some fat slob. You know why? Because one big piece of chocolate turned into a chocolate bar every day because you couldn't control yourself, because you didn't even draw the line. So that's really how these things are done. Another thing that is really key in this day and age is that since we're not doing the pitchfork thing, force has changed. And I talk a lot about, building yourself up and becoming a true weapon of a man, being strong and all that stuff. And that is important because you need to be able to enforce these things. If people start to step over the lines, now you need to be able to use physical force, perhaps physical intimidation. That is a tool. It is not the end of all. Some people who can't, don't understand nuance, or are completely uncivilized, who just decide to chop someone's heads off, those people won't understand this. But there's nuance. And physical intimidation and physical prowess is a really key thing to defending the ideas that you hold. If you're so skinny and if you have no bite, right, you're just going to be ran over. And everything goes. Right? Whatever you say, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't mean that might is right? Because, you can say that, well, okay, well then you can, just be super strong and everything you say goes. No, it's not like that. It's not like the morality is bound up in physical strength, right? Men understand this. We understand this intrinsically, right? Or instinctively, we understand this. That when someone is bigger and stronger, they have force capacity, right? And we understand it. Not that you're very conscious of it all the time, but you either see the guy as a threat, as a force, as someone who could, do something about defending his ideas, or you don't, right? If it's a, pasty, soy boy, pussy, skinny guy, then you understand that this guy, you can tell him that 1 + 1 is 3, and what is he gonna do about it? You understand it, right? And if you're a person with malintent, right, you're gonna go around and you're gonna try and be a bully like that. And that's that is a reality, which is why I'm telling you guys too. You need to be strong. You need to build yourself up. You need to be capable. All right, because when everything starts flying, this is a possibility. It is a possible scenario. It is a possible scenario that someone will try to not just force, because you disagree with their ideas, they will try to retaliate because of that. In what way? In some way, shape, or form, right? And so you need to be capable of that. But it's just a tool in the toolbox. What you have to understand, and this is the big issue, and I don't want to make the whole thing about this, but I want to comment on this because it's something I've learned. It's something everyone learns at some point in life. Is that it doesn't work with women, especially in this day and age, right? Because women don't understand that. They don't understand it in the same way. They don't tone it down because, especially in the day and age, because they understand that they're untouchable, right? And they don't subscribe to that. And so you can be strong, capable, and all this stuff, but you can still be completely pussy whipped because you're allowing ideas in, and you're not hardlining, being able to defend the idea, right? And they'll do this through these small things. Hey, why did you just take a day off from the gym? Why not do all this? And that's really the seed that will plant all this other things in your mind, and that you need to be aware of. And they'll do this because they don't understand force in the way that we usually do. Which is, not like, it's not like that makes it worse or anything. It just means that you need to be aware of this. And I'll give you another example, right, for this, because you notice this in a group of guys, and it's like one guy gets a girlfriend, and suddenly he's just, not hanging out. He's not into the same things. And sometimes that happens. People get different hobbies and all this stuff. But it's like, why did that happen? Well, this guy was influenced by his girlfriend in order to stay in for the night and watch Netflix, for example. And this guy just ate that idea up because he was afraid to offend. And women understand this. Women understand that, you might be afraid to offend them. They understand this. They're not dumb. And you need to be aware of that. Awareness of it. Big step. Being aware of all this is just, one of the biggest steps you can take. Because, and like I said, because they don't not understand force in the same way we do. And so they will try to, they will be, opportunistic. They're some of the most opportunistic, if you, like, women are so opportunistic, they will pull whatever strings they will in order to get their way. Right? That's how they work. Right? It's not, you don't forget about good or bad. Forget about that. But that's how they work. Right? By nature. And so that's where a lot of these issues stem from. Not from them, but from the fact that people are gullible to the ideas that they present. Weak men, right? Weak men who have no cojones, who need to scoop up their balls, they do this. They don't understand this. And so when you're seeing like women, for example, in politics, right? This is a big issue because they're opportunistic and they don't understand force. And also they're just dumb, really. Especially when it comes to like anything that is relevant, they're just completely clueless. It's just it gotta be said, gotta be said. Get them the hell out of there. But a lot of these things, they stem from the fact that people are gullible to what they say because they're very good at planting ideas in the minds of men. They're very good at it. One of the big examples of this is female interrogators in like interviews where they're trying to uncover, in the military interviews, they're trying to uncover like maybe you're a spy or something, you're a guy, and you get put in an interview box. Some woman comes in and she tries to tend your wounds. And she starts to plant these ideas of, oh, why don't you tell me? You can tell me, right? You can tell me. And she's tending to your wounds. And she's planted there in order to try to infiltrate this, right? In order to try to tell you the truth. It's not a good cop, bad cop thing, right? It kind of is, that actually. But they do this because they're very good. They're very good at it because people fall to it, and that's really in this ecosystem of ideas that truly is something to be aware of because. And this really comes full circle here with this point because it's like you have a group of individuals, and then the one person will get an idea that comes from his girlfriend, for example, his wife, for example. They will get an idea from them. And they will start planting this idea. This is how it roots, this is how it festers. They will plant this idea. They will talk about this idea inside the group. And suddenly the whole group has been changed because of this one thing. And this one, that doesn't mean that, this one person, like this, woman, is the culprit of this whole, downfall. It's the fact that, there's these outside influences, rap music and all this media, all this stuff that we're consuming that infiltrate exactly the things that we want to defend. The values, the things we talk about, the music we listen to, the way we think about life. And you have to be so relentless with this. You have to be like, okay, I want to be around this. I want to not be around this. Like you have to clearly outline, I do not allow this. And you have to call stuff out when it happens, right? You have to call it out. You have to do that. It doesn't have to be in a very what should I say? In a very extravagant way where it's like, hey, everybody, listen to this. Today, we're going to stop all rap listening music, right? Today, we're cutting all rap music. Like, some big announcement, right? But it's like, let's turn that off, right? Let's turn that off, for example. But, I'm speaking, of course, the way I'm saying these examples sometimes, maybe, they're difficult, put into a situation, right? Okay, maybe it doesn't flow naturally in a conversation. It's difficult to do that right now. I'm just speaking to a camera, speaking to you. But it's like in a conversation, I have conversations with people. And it's like, if they start talking about subjects, it's like, I don't want to hear about that. I say that to them. I'm a friend, right? I'm a friend, David. He's a good guy. You guys know him from the Thailand series. And sometimes he start talking about some topics, right? And I'm like, bro, don't talk to me about that. I just say. And I say it with a smile. And he's like, okay, bro, okay. Because I defend the idea. And it's like my ecosystem of ideas, which is me, the unit being me, right? I like that because it's true. And also it's like a good way to say it, because I'm absolute unit. And also it's a unit because it's two people, it's a we. It's me being we do this, we are on the mission. Nikolai, the way I'm talking to myself, that is we, that is the ecosystem of ideas. And then that ecosystem of ideas is like the inner circle, right? And then you have outside circles there where something else is allowed. Okay, I have my friend, right? My friend, I have my friend David, right? Me and him, we're talking about this, and what we talk about, we talk about this, right? That's what we talk about. And then it's like, okay, once he starts to like talk about things that I don't want to hear about, that is allowed inside my ecosystem of ideas, it's like, okay, I'm tuning this out. Like, bro, don't talk to me about this, right? And so we're curating this this ecosystem where we talk about certain things, where we talk about don't talk about certain things, where we don't listen to certain things. For example, before my fight, right? We didn't talk about my fight. Like, we didn't talk about that. It's just normal days, right? Because David knows I don't want to talk about the fight, right? So we're just hanging out. I don't want to talk about it, and he knows that. So, and then it goes even further, right? Like, you have you bigger groups, like I said, and suddenly you end up at a point of like a nation, and then you have a whole nation going down because of simple ideas that are just festering from ecosystem to ecosystem until suddenly it becomes accepted. It becomes accepted to talk about this, talk about that, and then the pitchforks were never necessary anyways, right? The pitchforks didn't even need to be taken out because the ideas were planted at a very small subconscious level, not to draw any mysticism into it. But it's like what I said, right? And this is, my personal quote, which you can, put on a t-shirt, but ideas repeated over time becomes truth. Regardless of what it is, really. You repeat an idea often enough, someone will just accept it eventually. You saw this with COVID. Big example. You still have people believing in the fucking vaccine, right? You still have people believing in it. Still. And it's like more people have died of the vaccine than I don't know what. Like, since like World War II, I saw some crazy statistics. More people have died of it, and they still believe it. This, like, if that doesn't show you exactly what we're dealing with here, like, you're so lost. And if you don't understand this at all, then you're just completely, like, you're completely lost. You're completely gullible. If none of what I have been talking about for the last 70 minutes you haven't understood any of it, you're that tribe of those hippie smoking pussies, right? You will accept anything. There's no line drawn. There's no, okay, we're not going to stand up for this. Because what I will say is that a lot of people think that, hey, once this happens, I'm just going to do this. Oh, right? Because you have a lot of these, especially these patriots and all this stuff, right? Especially these people talking about, oh, I would do this, right? Oh, I would never allow this. Listen, you allowed this small thing to happen, right? You allowed this politician to implement this law. How are you going to stand up to this once this happens? You don't have any balls. You see this a lot, in these Eastern European like the countries, Russia and stuff. It's like as soon as someone steps over the line, it's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. They're very good at it. I applaud them for it. They're very good at it. Here in Norway, everyone's a goddamn pussy. It's fucking crazy, right? No one has any stand. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, I guess we'll allow that. I talk to, like I said, when I talk to guys and it's like, yeah, sure, it doesn't matter that much. It's not that important. Come on, let them just do this. Let them do that. Just let them in, right? Let them in. No, nope. It's not happening. Not at any level. Not one. It's zero. It's binary. It's either or. It's not maybe, it's not, yeah, well, we can just, no, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist at the personal level when it comes to setting standards for yourself, and it doesn't exist when it comes to defending ideas, defending values, defending what you think as a person, as a collective. It does not exist, this maybe thing. It's either or. Once this maybe thing starts happening, you're slipping. You're slipping, the whole group is slipping, the whole nation is slipping. And that's how it works. That's how it works. That's how it will always work. Because this is warfare. This is modern day warfare. And this is not just, something I'm saying. This is how like at a war scale in war theaters these days, this is how they do it. You saw recently with, they saw these protests in Iran, right? The way they plant these ideas now is just, hey, they're saying in the media, hey, there's protests. There's no protests. The protests, right? It's riots. It's like I'm not going to go into like any conspiracies or anything, but it's a planned thing, right? And then you plant the idea in the media that, oh, it's just an uprising. People are tired, right? And then that's the idea. This is how they do warfare, because they need to get people on their side. And it's the same thing. You need to plant the idea to get people onto your side. I'm planting the idea in your mind right now. If you do this, if you go out there and you train for just 2 weeks, right? You're gonna become like super jacked. And of course it's not gonna happen in 2 weeks. Of course, you're gonna see great results though, right? Of course. But the point is, I'm planting a seed in your mind that's gonna make you do better in life, right? And I'll finish with this actually. There is like a dark side of this. Of course there is a dark side of this, like I've talked about already. People trying to use this for malice. But I'll give you a little bit of a hack. If you're in competition against someone, like running competition, if you're like trying to compete versus someone, you can plant ideas in their minds. This is kind of like dark psychology. You can plant ideas in their minds in order for them to start thinking about quitting and start to think about giving up. And you get people to focus on their pain when they're like in pain, when they're like, okay, you're like a ruck run. If you're running alongside people and it's like, okay, who's gonna get to the finish line first? You tell this person, right? Oh, I know, man, it's so tough. I know, man, I'm hurting too. Oh, bro, are your feet hurting, right? Because yeah, mine are just crazy, and you just lie, right? You just tell, hey, no, just your feet aren't hurting. Oh, it's like, but you want him to start thinking about the pain. And if you can plant that seed of doubt, it's like, yeah, my feet are actually hurting. How long do I have left? And once people start thinking how long they have left, they don't have any time left. They're already done. They're already done. So that's cool, actually. That last part, you can kind of use it to your advantage in that sense. But I'm not, advising you guys to go out there and be malicious and be malevolent. But it's like you see this all the time with fighting, boxing, MMA, right? People are like, watch out for this, right? You're going down, right? All this stuff. You tell people to focus on their pain. That's one thing. Right? There's different things you can do. And that's really pretty much it, right? For the ecosystem of ideas. This is the new frontier that we're fighting at. We're fighting this every day, and it's not a new concept really. Not at all, because this has existed for ever since, right? Ever since the dawn of mankind, this has existed. And it's just important to know, because a lot of people think that, like I said, that it's just, here and then it's pitchforks. No. There's a whole thing that happens. And there's a whole thing in this, mostly civilized world where it's a war of ideas. And you have to defend that. You have to defend the standards that you set for yourself. You have to defend the standard you define for a group of individuals, yourself, if you're a leader. If you're a leader, this is very important, because they're looking to you. It's like someone makes a joke that isn't appropriate, right? Jokes are very common, okay? Jokes, super common. It's very common to infiltrate ideas, to infiltrate with jokes. Oh, it's just a joke. And then you say the joke again, and you say the joke again, and people start thinking, right? Okay, well, it might be some truth to the joke. Watch out for that. Watch out for your close friends when they say, well, I'm just joking, man, I'm just joking. Yeah, you made that joke like 10 times now. What's up with it? Huh? What's up with it? You call it out, and they're like, shit. Or you don't need to call it out. For a lot of this stuff, like when people, start to, not agree in the sense, what you can do is just leave. I've had so many people in my life, it's like they're starting to talk about retarded shit, they're making retarded jokes. I've just left. I don't owe people, I don't owe you a fucking, apology. I don't owe you an explanation. I can, sometimes I might give you an explanation for why, but I might just leave. This is like, you can't be like, oh, well, it's okay, right? It's just made a joke. No, you can't be that way. And of course there's nuance. Of course sometimes you can make jokes. Like I said in the beginning, you have to see the nuance in this. It's not like always, no, you can't make a joke about that. No, you can't make a joke about that. Like, I make jokes about Epstein, right? Epstein's fucking, coolest guy ever. Like, that's a joke. That's a funny joke, right? Like, it's not got, like, we're not planting necessarily a seed of, getting our private islands, right? And start, trafficking people. That's not what we're doing, right? But we're just having fun with it. And that's allowed to. You're allowed to do that. But you have to realize that this is truly, this is true. And it's real. And you have to be steadfast. And you have to stop being afraid to offend anyone when it comes to this, really. Really, you have to stop being afraid to offend anyone. And my advice for that, because I'm not really, I'm not the best at it. I'm not really a confrontational person. Norwegians usually aren't. We're not really that confrontational. But my advice is just, next time, call it out some way. Don't say that. Don't talk about that, bro. Don't talk about this, talk about that. Try and just be better at it. Because the sooner we check these people, especially these weak men around us that we meet here and there, as soon as we check them, it's like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you talking bullshit? The sooner we're going to get back to something prosperous. And and if we don't check it, it's just going to infiltrate our mind. One time I was like, I was in a grocery store and I met a guy from my football team. I remember I said to him, what was it? Oh, I'm probably not gonna, train on Sunday, because he was asking me if I wanted to train football, right, on Sunday. And I was like, well, we have a match on Monday, no? And he was like, yeah, so? And I was like, yeah, I don't want to, spend myself too much. And I caught myself in a moment and I said to him, listen, bro, what the fuck am I talking about, right? I'm speaking like a pussy here. And like, yeah, you're right. We're going to train football on Sunday. See, you have to catch yourself like this, because winners don't talk like that. Winners talk like, hell yeah, we're doing it. Hell yeah, let's go, right? That's how winners talk. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to this, like things that I probably left out. I'm seeing now on my laptop, for example, it's, just one thing really, and I guess I'll say that I haven't used any notes or anything for this, but what's difficult about it is that you get this idea and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I chose this. No, I made a conscious choice to not do this, right? And you're always thinking to yourself that you're in control. Meanwhile, you don't understand where the idea comes from. You don't understand what actually caused the spark for you to think that way in the first place. But you're always thinking, oh yeah, I'm in full control. Oh yeah, and that's a very important thing too when you're trying to infiltrate an idea, is that you have to think that the person is in control. You have to think that this group is in control and that there's no outside force. You have to have them think like that. If not, they'll just call the thing. It's like, hey, we're getting attacked by this, right? And they'll group together more. This is how it works. In here and out there. Right? The attacks only work when the defense is weak. And that's what we're trying to solve here. We're trying to get better. We're trying to get stronger through my videos, through, all that I preach. And which really is the truth, right? What I'm saying is the truth, because, you're looking around and it's like, sure, you're not, what should I say this? Like, you're looking around and it's like, yeah, what can be done to combat this? And it's like, well, maybe we should stop taking all these maybes and, ifs and what if that and what if that. No. 1 + 1 is 2, and we will always be 2. And you can take that bullshit half-assing thing and you can fuck off. That's what we need to say. That's how we need to act. For anything. For anyone who tries to, go against a standard of strength, because that really is like something is saying, okay, we're chasing the truth here, but you'll find a lot of truth, find almost all truth through strength, through discipline, through building your mind and body. You'll find a lot of the truth. And people who challenge that is, when I say enemy, I'm not saying like in a bad sense. It's like it's in a bad sense, but it's not like enemy as in like a warfare, like. It's like a figure of speech again, enemy. But truly it is. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like the standards, ecosystem of ideas. If you guys have any questions, you can comment down below. I'll see if I bother to answer, because sometimes there's some fucking retards in the comments. And I'm just like, this is not a debate. Like you think this is the debate? Look at me and look at you, right? Might is right in this sense. What you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it? I'm correct. You're not. You're some hater online. So it's not really a debate. But hey, feel free to let me know what you think. Take care, and God bless. Boom.